9.5 astronomical units from the center of the solar system on the sixth orbit around the Sun is the planet Saturn. Amidst its almost 300 orbiting satellites, not including the giant ring, floats a strange moon, studied for its ice volcanoes, underground oceans, and possibility of life. It's the moon Enceladus, probably one of the most important discoveries for us here on Earth, no doubt. Several years ago, I released a video called Building Acinora, showcasing a moon with ancient, imposing megastructures on it. This video is the first of many deep dives into the research of how I made various aspects of Acinora, as there's obviously a lot more than just that, such as its celestial dynamics, geography, flora and fauna, history, culture and politics, technology, and of course, characters and plot. Because there's gonna be a story. All good things of this research flow into the wiki. When you hear this tone, with this graphic in the corner, that's a thread that will follow, and we'll put it into our little notepad so that we can expand on it later to make a wiki entry. We're going to be implementing the thread discovery and following kind of concept that I talked before about in this video. The end goal of this research is to just explore, brainstorm, and see what sticks. And we're going to be researching the real moon Enceladus to get some ideas about celestial dynamics and geography for Acinora. But how do we even research in the first place? Well, I always go to sites like Stack Exchange and Wikipedia. They're really good to just browse through and find answers to questions you might have. Or to find answers to questions that you didn't know you had. These sites are a network, and bouncing around from entry to entry via links is pretty fun. If you don't particularly like the idea of spending hours researching articles on random things such as Enceladus's surface hydrothermal activity, then it's totally fine to lean the way of whatever sounds cool. But you're gonna need to have an extremely good grasp of what exactly is cool and how you can use it. Now, to organize this whole project, I'm gonna be using Obsidian. Of course, with some custom CSS to make it look like a wiki. For you all, I've taken the liberty of making a subsection of my site into a wiki. You can navigate it just like a normal wiki by clicking on the links to go to other pages. I think that's enough of the setup. Let's enter the sandbox and begin researching. Starting with Acinora's celestial dynamics, its place in space. We could go the route of what most world builders do and map out a star system, the type of sun it has, the orbit of the celestial object that we've chosen the world to be, its semi-major axis, its eccentricity, its periapsis, its apoapsis, its velocity, its inclination, its hill-sphere starting altitude, and you can see how some people don't particularly enjoy this approach. I like it sometimes. I've done it before for other projects, but for this one, I just settled on a balance of whatever sounds cool with a little bit of random surface-level research about Enceladus. Acinora is the moon of a gas giant called Treo, which orbits the star Tredge. Therefore, the system name is the Tredge system. Pretty straightforward. Because we want Acinora to be barely livable, a dimmer, more stable star would probably be appropriate. So let's say that the star Tredge is a red dwarf, which is an ancient type of star that burns for a long time. This can tie in nicely with the ancient vibe that I'm trying to go for. But because red dwarfs are quite dim, Treo and Acinora would have to be fairly close to the sun. In my mind, this works out because there can be bright sunlight on Acinora itself, and it wouldn't melt the ice and snow. It's probably scientifically questionable, but I'm not going for some hard sci-fi. Now, red dwarfs, especially younger ones, give off a lot of high energy radiation. This can be really useful as a little tidbit. Whatever ancient civilization existed before on Acinora, they could have built structures to prevent themselves from whatever radiation they were facing at that time. Fast forward, however many years, 1 trillion? Oh man. And the radiation is not that much of a threat at that point, so inhabitants can walk around outside using less protective gear and can therefore explore the surface more. I don't know. It's not necessarily going to be like this, but you see how you can connect the threads to make a story. So, we should probably talk about Enceladus. Its diameter is about 500 kilometers across, but for Acinora I chose about 8,900 kilometers, which I know is a lot more, but this is because I want Acinora to be more of a planetoid than a moon, and its wide trail is significantly larger than Saturn. Earth itself, for context, has a diameter of around 13,000 kilometers. Not that that particularly matters, as a Saturn-sized gas giant could theoretically have a moon with a diameter as large as it wants, as long as the ratio of mass is around 1:4, which is based off of the Earth and Moon, which is also quite anomalous in ratio anyway. Moons are weird. Not that that matters either, because I'm okay with Acinora straying away from Enceladus in terms of size, obviously. The bigger the moon, the more structures and secrets it can hide. Now, there could be a lot more to talk about, like how I mentioned before. We're missing the eccentricity, velocity, and hill sphere start, and all those cool things that can help us build weather and seasons. But the weather on Acinora isn't natural anyways, so we can just safely move on. Really, the reference point of Enceladus was more for the surface and internal structure, rather than its nature with the parent planet and system. Actually, let's talk about that now. It might not seem like Enceladus has all that to offer in terms of geography and geology, but trust me, there's a lot of fascinating things going on. Enceladus is known for its tiger stripes, which are basically wide canyons on the surface. These regions, when viewed from space, give it a strange, scarred look. These are fractures, and from what I can imagine, it's pretty unstable there standing on the surface. You would hear cracks as shifting slabs of ice move over each other. The entire outer layer of the moon is just ice and water, after all. Walking along, you might experience a quake caused by those shifting masses as the parent planet pulls the surface of the moon. Eventually, you would reach a place with radiant haze, suspended in ice particles glittering in the dim sunlight. Looking up, you would see gigantic columns of what look like smoke, but it's not. It's water gushing out into space from Enceladus' cryovolcanoes. If there was a place to sightsee on Enceladus, this would be it. Unlike regular volcanoes on Earth that spew out magma, cryovolcanoes spew out water and ice crystals deep out of the gravity well and into space. There, they float around and most likely find themselves pulled into Saturn's earring. These canyons make a pretty good setting for story scenes. A moon like this definitely has horrible weather, with snowstorms and blizzards being common. These aren't blizzards like how they are on Earth. They're larger, violent, and dangerous. For safety, the people who live here travel through the web of canyons, placing lights, marking links to different locations, and constructing rest areas for travelers, all while above a blizzard rages on. If you find a path marked cryovolcano, don't go too close. While the ambient temperatures may be really cold, the cryovolcanoes can reach a delta from the ambient temperature of around 110 degrees Celsius. If the surface temperature was a chill negative 23 degrees Celsius rather than Enceladus' normal negative 193 degrees Celsius, then the plume would be around 107 degrees Celsius. Safe to say, probably don't go near it. But where's all this pressure coming from? Well, we know that now. In 2015, researchers working on Cassini discovered a microscopic silica crystal that came from Enceladus's cryovolcano plumes. This meant that the plumes had material that came up from deep inside Enceladus, which meant, in turn, there had to be hydrothermal vents in the vast underground ocean. Underground ocean. That's really cool. You know, I chose Enceladus because mainly its similarities and vibes for what I had in mind for Acinora. It was almost a random choice, but following this thread has led to a whole new reserve of concepts. And that's pretty much how it goes whenever you're researching world building. You find one thing and discover a sea of connections. They give you more ideas, which in turn you research again, leading to more discovery. And it's a recursive process, and it's easy to get lost down the rabbit hole. I guess that's why it took me 3 years to get here. For now, I think we're good. I think we have a pretty good understanding of the celestial dynamics, geology, and geography of what Acinora is like. So let's make some wiki entries based off of the things that we learned. You can visit this page now if you'd like, and I'll be updating it in the future as more videos come out. Next, those megastructures don't entirely seem natural.